Welcome back. So tonight we delve into the cocoa sector. Many issues, over 300,000 tons of cocoa not yet bought. We're told tens of billions of cedis of debt owed to licensed buyers. Cocoa farmers over the weekend protested or essentially complained to some politicians that they really needed COCOBOD to come to the party and buy their cocoa and also pay them what was owed LBCs. So tonight I'll speak to Dr. Ransford Abbey, who's the CEO of COCOBOD. He's been in office for 1 year, 2 weeks, 1 day, I think, if I'm not mistaken. Later on, we'll speak to the MPP's ranking member on the Agric and Cocoa Affairs Committee, and later come back in to wrap up. So, Doc, welcome to the show. Good evening.
Good evening, and thank you.
Am I counting well? 1 year, 2 weeks, 1 day? How many?
Yeah, so my appointment letter was on the 21st of January.
21st of January?
Yes, I stepped foot in COCOBOD on the 22nd of January.
So that will be 8 days into February, or 9 days into February, another 9 days. So you've done, 1 year, 18 days. 1 year, 18 days. How has it been?
It's been quite challenging. But I think that I need to also justify the confidence reposed in me by His Excellency President John Dramani Mahama, and so I also have resolved to ensure that together with the team and the board, and of course my sector minister and his ministry, will be able to turn things around.
You've done many difficult things in your life, I know. Run football clubs, and your PhD and all of those. Hosted a show that's been watched a lot. Have you done anything quite like this? A state agency, lots of technocrats, one of the biggest government agencies. Have you done anything?
It's the biggest challenge so far, but if you look at the story of my life, it appears that I always get into very, very challenging situations.
But was it, I like to know, of course you can't give me all the details, but what did the president tell you? What was his reason for making you the CEO? Did he ever tell you?
Well, first of all, he believed that there was a need for a certain resetting, that it was a challenged area. A lot of things needed to change. He thought that he needed somebody with a fresh perspective, a new perspective to run the place. And he, having known me for 30 years or so, believe that I could be the right person I will be the right person to do the job.
And of course, prior to taking the job, I know that as journalists, we are taking interest in the sector.
Of course.
You've done interviews around it. How shocking or different is what you saw when you entered from the analysis you did while on the outside?
So, for example, you're right. I mean, we have done a lot of stories around COCOBOD. We knew that there were challenges at COCOBOD, although the then administration kept, denying these challenges. But we also kept having reports that, look, it wasn't all that rosy. And especially when COCOBOD opted for the debt restructuring with respect to the cocoa bills. That was also a strong signal that indeed the finances of COCOBOD were not that good, and that the company was going through a lot. And then the issues in 23-24, all the issues about the syndicated loan and all that, obviously painted a picture of a company that was troubled. But of course, those who were inside kept refuting it and giving reasons to suggest that, look, all was well, everything was fine, there was no need to panic, there was no need to worry. And especially when we also saw the record high prices for cocoa in 2024 as against the FOB that was declared, and of course the farmer share. That also clearly showed that there was something. But what exactly the issue was, nobody could tell. And you remember that is what brought about this issue of the farmers were being cheated. They should be paid 6,000 or 7,000 and all that, because we all could tell. We could see what the world market prices were. As high as 12,000 came to 11,000, 10,000, settled on, let's say, an average of $9,000 over the year. And obviously, if you have an average of about $9,000 across the season, and your farmers being paid 3,100, which will constitute, let's say, maybe about 30%, obviously there will be a cause for concern, because we know that generally the farmers are paid between 60 and 70%. The NDC manifesto said that they will give the farmers 70, and that is exactly what happened, but generally 60 to 70%. So when you have a situation where the world market prices on the average was about 9,000, and like I said, it went as high as 12, 11 and 10, but let's use the 9,000 as the average across the season.
Okay.
If it were 9,000 and farmers are giving $3,100 US, then it presupposes that the farmers are getting about 30%. And I'm sure that that was the reason why those who said that it should be 6,000, 7,000 made those statements. But it was not until I got to COCOBOD that I then found a reason why it was 3,100 and not all those figures that people were speaking about.
Okay. Give me the top 3 key issues without necessarily breaking it down. I want highlights, because earlier I spoke to Dr. Isaac Yao Opoku, so I'll bring those highlights. But I want to know, so debt, what is the debt situation you met? What is the sort of financial situation? Just some big highlights.
Okay. So first of all, I mean, year end 2024. Okay. So that is then what I took over, what I inherited. I mean, had a debt of 32.9 billion cedis. 32.9 billion cedis. COCOBOD had a negative equity of 3.8 billion. End of year 2016, COCOBOD had a positive equity of about 1.8 billion. 2024 year end, negative equity of 3.8 billion, almost 3.9 billion, which presupposes says that COCOBOD's liabilities were more than its assets by close to 4 billion. The first time in the history of the 79-year-old company. Next year, COCOBOD will be 80 years. So this is what we inherited. We inherited a cocoa road exposure of 26 billion cedis.
Now, is that part of the 32?
No. So only 4.4 billion of this exposure was part of the debt, because the 4.4 billion were certificates that were sitting at our cash office. But the 26 billion were contracts, road contracts that COCOBOD had awarded. 26 billion. But the 32.9 billion includes only 4.4 billion of these 26 billion contracts, cities contracts awarded. Then you also had a situation where COCOBOD kept procuring jute sacks and was not clearing these jute sacks, but yet was procuring every single year and not clearing, and spending $48 million for the night. You know, those procurements were done CIF, and those contracts were also, they issued the irrevocable letters of credit. And so once the supplier produced the bill of ladings, once the things were Temaport and they produced the bill of ladings, their job was done. The Ghana International Bank in London then was obliged to release these monies to the supplier. So they kept buying these jute sacks. They were not clearing them. They were still buying more, to the extent that even in 2024, they bought another 80,000 when they are not cleared over 150,000 bills at the port over a 3-year period. In 2024, they still ordered for 80,000 more bills valued at $48 million. They signed these contracts around April, and on the 3rd of December 2024, they issued the irrevocable LC to cover this. Those bills have started arriving, and once the bill of ladings are done and completed, the Ghana International Bank would have to pay $48 million of COCOBOD's money to this supplier. So that was the situation. You also had a situation of agrochemicals that were supposed to have come, they couldn't clear. Some had gone into demurrage, some had been auctioned. You had reports of some of these products being seen on markets somewhere in West Africa, some other parts in Africa, in Ghana, and all that. You also had, rollover contracts. So in 2023-2024, you know how the syndicated loans are done. So you have a situation where there is a crop forecast, and then there is a price forecast. So let's say there's a crop forecast of 600,000 tons for the year. Then there's probably maybe also a price forecast of $5,000 over the season. Now, COCOBOD would look at how much it requires to purchase the crop for the year.
Okay.
And so on the basis of that, it will then authorize the cocoa marketing company to go and sign contracts to that value. So let's say if COCOBOD needs $2 billion to buy the crop, it will then ask CMC to perhaps go and sign contracts for, let's say, 500,000 tons out of the 600,000 at not less than $5,000. Now, CMC will then go and sign these contracts with the buyers of the crop. Now, these contracts are what COCOBOD will take to the consortium of banks, the syndicated banks, as collateral. And it's on the basis of the value of these contracts that the banks, the syndicated banks, will then give out a loan to COCOBOD. Now, in 23-24, COCOBOD failed to honor 333,767 tons of cocoa that it had sold to these buyers at an average of $2,600.
So these are forward sales?
Yes, $2,600. But it failed. It could not supply them. The first time in the history of COCOBOD. So these were rollovers priced at $2,600 that we inherited at a time when cocoa prices had shot up. So this was a big challenge. So what it meant was that you then had to use high price cocoa to then service this contract.
Because you had been logging at $2,600.
And cocoa prices were then at 12, 11, 10, and 9. And that is also where when the syndicated loan collapsed, the 23-24. So 24-25, COCOBOD has actually issued a request for proposal, and the banks did not respond.
So they had forward sold cocoa, but they didn't have the liquidity.
They didn't have the cocoa.
The cocoa to supply.
So it was rolled over to the next season, and this cocoa had been sold at 2,600.
So when the high price came, you couldn't even benefit from the high price.
No, in fact, we even ended up making losses, because then the price which was given to the farmer, the farm gate price, the producer price for the farmer, was $3,100.
But have you been able to clear that backlog in the first year?
We cleared 235. We cleared 235 in the first year. But what it meant
was about 2/3 of that.
So what it meant was that for every ton of cocoa that the LBC paid the farmer $3,100 for, that you used to service this contract, you had a debt of $500.
Which is
so so you have a double whammy. One, your inability to benefit from the high prices, and two, the debts that you were incurring as a result of the shortfall between the farmer price and how much those contracts were sold for. And here we are not talking about 30,000 or 50,000 tons. We are talking about 333,767 tons. So if you were going to have a yield of 600,000, you are talking about more than 50%.
Okay. So you've labeled about 4 big things: financial position generally in terms of the debt, the equity position, irregular procurement, and also the collapse of the syndicated loan.
The cocoa roads exposure.
That's about 5. I will take a short break.
Yes.
When I come back, I will bring you highlights of an interview I had with Dr. Ezekiel Opoku. He is the MP for Ofinso South. He used to be a cocoa executive. He has some very strong things to say as well. We'll take those comments and then come back in for a reaction from Dr. Abbey. This is the point of view. Don't go away. So welcome back. So tonight our focus is on Ghana's cocoa sector and the challenges it's faced. Licensed buying companies have been speaking about this. So too has the minority. To set us off, I'm going to be speaking to the ranking member on the Food, Agric and Cocoa Affairs Committee, who himself used to be critical at CRIG, which is the Cocoa Research Institute of Ghana. He was an executive director there. These days he's the MP for Ofinso South, Dr. Ezekiel Opoku. Thanks for joining us, Doc.
You're welcome, sir.
Wonderful. So am I correct in saying you have 3 angles to this? A former executive at CRIG, a scientist, and obviously now a politician and a ranking member on the Cocoa Affairs Committee, correct?
You're perfectly right, sir.
Wonderful. So how bad is the situation our cocoa sector finds itself in, from your own eyes?
COCOBOD management, they didn't listen to advice. You see, since time immemorial, we have been trading forward. You know, you do your projections and then you trade at least 70% of your crop forward. And once you do that, you can see your way clear. You know the revenue you'll be generating. So when you are fixing the producer price, you have no fears at all. You remember when Randy Abbey was on Good Morning Ghana, he chastised and bastardized the previous administration for trading forward. You see, if they had traded you can trade forward for 6 months, you can trade forward for 1 year, 1.5 years, even 2 years. So when prices go to 10,000, 11,000, 12,000, 13,000, if we had listened to advice and traded forward, we wouldn't have been where we are today. We would not have been where we are today. Now the situation is extremely bad. After this interview, I'll send you some videos. You will weep for cocoa farmers. The situation is terrible.
Well,
it's terrible.
We will speak to Mr. Abbey and he will answer for himself. But I recall him saying that the previous board defaulted on forward sales contracts in the 23-24 season, having signed agreements of over 330,000 tons of cocoa at a price of 2,600 per ton, but failing to deliver. So he says there are two problems there. The fact that that price was much lower than what they would have gotten if that forward sale hadn't been done, and also the fact that as of the time the previous administration left office, they hadn't supplied the cocoa that they had agreed to sell to these buyers.
They have not done what? But you see, contracts, what do you call it? You say we rolled over
33,000 tons.
33,000 tons. You see, this is standard industry practice. Is it the first time Cocoa Board is rolling over contracts? It happens all the time. You see, you do your projections. This year, I anticipate that I will produce, let's say, 850,000 metric tons. For some other reasons, it could be the weather, it could be, bushfires, it could be anything, smuggling and whatever. You are unable to produce what you projected to produce. Then you roll over the contracts at the prevailing price. It happens all the time. 2017, another government also inherited contract rollover. They also inherited contract rollover to the tune of 190,208 tons. Did you hear this noise? Did you hear this noise? Contract rollovers are standard industry practice. It happens all the time. In 2024, Cote d'Ivoire, they rolled over 500,000 metric tons. 500,000 metric tons. It happens all the time. I pray that it doesn't happen to him. Now he has projected to produce 650,000. If something happens and you are unable to produce that, you roll over at the prevailing price. In any case, when they were fixing the price at 3,225, didn't they know that this situation existed? Didn't they know? You see, they should come clear. They should tell the cocoa farmer what the real problem is and stop beating about the bush. They should come clear. They should come clear. When they were paying cocoa farmers in January, February, March, April, May, June, July, August, September, October, didn't they know that these challenges exist? Didn't they know?
Can we say, though, in not in defense but in explanation, that the price rise to about $12,000 per ton is quite unprecedented if you look at the historical price levels, so that threw everything out of gear. So you have said that prices do change, but if you look at the chart for cocoa prices, end of 2024, the price went very, very high before it started falling, and it's plummeted quite drastically to below 5,000 now, or around 5,000 figure. So if you look at the massive rise and drop, that obviously creates a bigger challenge than anyone could have anticipated. No?
Yes, I agree. The 12,000 was unprecedented. And no buyer will continue to buy at 12,000. So they should have anticipated that at one point the price will start dropping. That is why you have to trade forward, take advantage to they had traded forward. At least they would have got something in the region of 8 to 12,000. This situation wouldn't have arisen. They should have traded forward. That's what I'm saying. Once you trade forward, then you know the revenue you'll be generating. So when you are fixing the producer price, you know what your leg is on. You know where you are. So you cannot default. There will be no challenge because you know the revenue you'll be generating. You see, they didn't listen to advice, and they said, "Oh, if I remember, Randy Abbey was saying the trading forward was senseless." That's the word he used. If I should quote him, he said it was senseless. But if they had done that, as I said earlier on, they could have even traded 2 years, knowing that the price wouldn't remain at 12,000 forever. If at 12,000, it was abnormal. No buyer would even buy on spot at 12,000 because they know for sure that the prices were going to recede.
But was there demand for the product in that first year that he's been in office for the forward trades to be possible?
Yes, there was demand. I mean, there was demand, and in fact, the previous administration traded forward some of the cocoa for at 10,000, 11,000. They traded forward. In fact, they are even lucky that the previous administration traded some cocoa forward. Otherwise, the situation has been even worse than what we are seeing today. They traded forward. I mean, the negotiations would be based on the current price. All the buyers, the negotiations for selling or buying would depend on the existing price. So it's not as if the price went to 10,000 and then you will be trading at 2,000. No. And if you are trading forward, it will be based on the existing price. And they could have taken advantage of that and sold forward at those high prices.
Another problem the current management faces is the FX issue, where because of the cedi's relative strength, the current price they are offering to farmers is higher than the price they are getting if they do spot sales. So the 5,400 or the 58,000 Ghana cedis, when you translate that. So again, an unintended consequence of a stronger currency. So is that not really part of the risk? You can't really blame the administration for this, can you? It's more like...
You can blame the administration. You can put the challenges squarely, on doorstep of the current administration. You can blame them. The current exchange rate, who caused them? The current exchange rate, who caused them? In any case, as I said, when they were paying the cocoa farmer in January, February, March, April, up to October, what was the exchange rate? What was the exchange rate? So they cannot put the blame anywhere else apart from the doorstep of the current administration. They cannot blame anybody. They can't blame the farmer. They can't blame anybody. You see, in any case, the main crop is about ending. They've sold the bulk of our cocoa. When they were getting 10,000, 11,000, 12,000, did you hear about these complaints? You see, cocoa farmers have never enjoyed the full benefit of their toil. Never have they been paid 100% of the FOB. Never. Since time immemorial. So now cocoa prices have gone down, and you want the cocoa farmer to suffer alone. That would not be fair. That would not be fair. Cocoa board staff, haven't they been paid in November? Haven't they been paid in October, in December? Haven't they been paid in January? And why will you deny the cocoa farmer his due? And the payment is also coming from the FOB. So it's the cocoa farmer's toil, which is sort of taking care of the cocoa board staff. I also enjoyed it. So I'm not saying that their salaries should be reduced, but whatever it is, government must also find ways and means to also cushion the cocoa farmer. You check the international prices. Now, 2017, it dropped from 3,000 to 2,000. Did you hear this noise?
Okay. So if I understand it, there are two issues. There's an bought cocoa which the LBCs are claiming is to the tune of about 300,000 tons. And we're also told that there's the COCOBOD owing LBCs for previously purchased cocoa. Is that correct? So that
that is correct.
That is correct.
That is correct. In fact, if you take a look at my press conference, I even understated the indebtedness of COCOBOD to the LBCs. I said they own them 10 billion Ghana cedis. That is the cocoa delivered. Cocoa delivered is the indebtedness is 10 billion. That's what I stated. But our committee, Food, Agric and Cocoa Affairs, we met with COCOBOD management last Thursday, and I asked the chief executive this question: how much they own the LBCs? And he said, what I said is an understatement. In fact, they own them in excess of 11 billion. 11 billion. That is cocoa delivered. Now they have also bought another 300, which is yet to be delivered. Now even they are not supplying juicers to cocoa farmers for fear that they will bring their produce for sale. They are not supplying. So cocoa farmers are forced to store their cocoa in used fertilizer bags.
I see. But what is your understanding of the outstanding debt that was left for this administration? Because he says there was a 32.91 billion CD debt, including a $481 million loan due for repayment this season, for which no funds had been set aside. So that seems like a hefty indebtedness to leave for any administration, correct?
So when they were fixing the producer price, didn't they know about this? I mean, they shouldn't tell the cocoa farmer this. They shouldn't. When they were fixing the price initially, when they were taking office, the producer price was 3,100. And you remember the noise that they made, that Ronaldo was cheating them big time. And if they got the opportunity, they will increase it to 6,000, 7,000. They first increased it to 3,225, then to 3,625. When they were fixing this price, didn't they know that COCOBOD was owing? In any case, you see, this debt, it is not one-day debt. It's an accumulated debt. Ronaldo also inherited some. I don't have the figures with you now. I'm not in the office. You know, I'm somewhere at Tafo in the eastern region. You know, so I don't have the figures. But it is not a one-day debt.
So that was Dr. Isaac Yaopoku, MP for Finso South, who's the ranking member of the Food, Agric and Cocoa Affairs Committee. So we spoke to him a few moments before we came on air with Dr. Abbey. So when we come back, he will respond to some of the points raised by Dr. Opoku. Stay with us. Expressing a lot of surprise and exasperation during the clip I aired. Why is that?
Well, Bernard, to be honest, I was extremely shocked at the confusion in the thoughts of Honorable Opoku. I was really confused. I didn't get the head and tail of what he was saying. I mean, first of all, he doesn't even appreciate that the issue of forward sale was actually on the basis of the funding model, the syndicated loan, which then presupposes that you actually forward sell the cocoa, sign these contracts, and use those contracts as a collateral to receive the money in one bullet. And then when that collapsed, we now had a buyer's funding model. And this collapse was as a result of the collapse of the syndicated loan was as a result of the fact that you decided to do a restructuring of the cocoa bills, which clearly was telling everybody that I'm broke. I can't pay my bills.
Are you talking 2022?
2022. And that is what led to the problems in 2023, where for the first time you had a syndicated loan hitting COCOBOD's accounts around Christmas, and the LBCs getting money from COCOBOD, the seed money, for the first time, 26th of January, 2024.
When does the crop season start?
In this case, it started September.
So which means that...
okay. September, October, November, December, January. And if you listen to the Licobac press conference, they alluded to it. 23-24. So that clearly showed you where the financial challenges were. For those 5 months, the Licobac people were saying that they had to go and take loans and others to finance the crop before they received the money 26th of January. Now, you had a situation where at the end of the season, you also were unable to supply 333,000. And he says it's normal. It's not normal. Nowhere in the history of COCOBOD have we had this situation. Never. Now, he says that in 2017, they inherited the same thing. Yes, there was no 100 and he said 160 something thousand. It's not true. There was about some 60,000, 65,000 rollover. However, guess what? This rollover was at higher prices compared to the 2017 prices. So COCOBOD actually made a gain on this rollover from the 2015 season to the 2016-2017 season. So you had a rollover of about 65,000. But those cocoa were sold at prices higher than what was obtained in 2017-2018. So in this case, COCOBOD actually made gains.
But the COCOBOD administration in 2016 had forward sold.
Yes, because they're also doing syndication.
Okay.
Now, once in 2024-25, I told you that COCOBOD issued a request for proposal. The banks did not respond.
Are you saying that the forward sales was not stopped willy-nilly? It was stopped because the syndicated loan
collapsed.
No longer working.
No, it collapsed.
So it wasn't your decision.
No, we inherited this funding model.
Okay.
So 24-25, they could not go for the syndicated loan because the buyers were not willing to sign new contracts for you to go and do the syndication, because you had 333,000 tons of cocoa that you are not supplied to them.
But he claimed, or he said that you were criticizing forward sales when he was there or when you were on air. So his view was that you were against forward sales generally. You are now telling me that the forward sales even collapsed before you came. So it wasn't even your point. It was the cocoa syndicated loan that collapsed that did not allow forward sales.
24-25, there was no syndicated loan. We did not start 24-25. 24-25 season started September of 2024. Okay. Where was I September 2024? The cocoa season.
So, but I just want to understand. So it's not as if you are. So are you against forward sales?
How can I be against forward sales?
You criticize him about. You criticize COCOBOD about it when
this man always says things. He alludes things to me that he has no evidence. The last time at this same press conference, he was saying that I had said that they defaulted in the repayment of syndicated loan. Meanwhile, I consistently said that they defaulted in supply 333,000. Is that not different from saying that somebody defaulted in the repayment of a loan? In any case, even that loan we're talking about, the 23-24 loan, they had to take bridge financing of $70 million from the Ministry of Finance to be able to pay. Otherwise, they were going to default. That $70 million loan is still sitting on our books that we have to pay for the 23-24 season. Wow. That tells you the kind of trouble that we went through in 23-24. And so there was no surprise that 24-25, the syndicated thing collapsed and it didn't happen. Now you had a situation where the prices have moved to 12,000, 11,000, 10,000. The buyers, mind you, had over 330,000 tons priced at 2,600. They were not willing to sign new contracts. So then the agreement of COCOBOD with them was that, okay, you give us some new contracts whilst we service the old one. So the buyers then agreed. Now for the buyers, it made a lot of sense. When cocoa is being sold at 10,000, 11,000, and you have cocoa valued at 2,600, even if it cost you 2 times,
you will wait for them to supply the old.
You will actually finance the crop.
Yeah.
It made sense. You had crop of 2.6 to fund the crop. For you to retrieve this 2.6 when prices are 12,000, 11,000, 10,000 is a no-brainer. So the buyers now, for the first time, decided to fund the crop. Now, so this funding model,
with a guarantee that they will get theirs at the 2,600.
So once you're giving them their 2,600, they're also giving you new contracts. Do you understand what I'm saying? Yeah. So you didn't have a situation where now you were doing forward sales to take the syndicated loan, to use the forward sales contracts as collateral, and use the collateral to take the syndicated loan, and use the syndicated loan to give seed funds to LBCs to go and purchase the bean for you. Now you have to rely on the buyers now making orders. So a buyer makes an order of 50,000 tons. Then the buyer will advance you 60% of the money. And it is that money that you give to the LBC to go and buy the cocoa for you. When you deliver, they pay the 40% to you. So that was the model that we inherited. So it was a buyers-funded model, no longer syndicated forward sale.
Which is what you've continued in the first.
So when we came in and we analyzed it, we realized that, look, when the prices come down significantly, and also you extinguish most of these syndicated loans, there will be no motivation for the buyers to fund your crop and take on the financing cost. So we did not see this financing model going beyond 25-26. So we quickly sat with our ministry and started looking at a new funding model for 26-27 season. So 25-26, we continued with this same funding model. So this is a funding model that we inherited. 1, 2, we didn't expect it to go beyond 25-26. It is also a funding model which is financed by the buyers. So it is the buyers who make an order, and on the basis of the order, they give you a part of the money to give to the LBCs to purchase the crop.
Fair enough. Have you been able to? You did say that the 330,000,
333
that you inherited.
Yes.
You've cleared 2/3. So does that, yes, does that mean that you haven't sold any new crop at the higher price? Because all this 235 you've sold would have been at the 2,600.
So I am speaking about 24-25.
Yes.
So after supplying about 235,000, the rollover now came down to 98,000. That is how come for 25-26, although cocoa prices were lower than 24-25, we were able to give an FOB of $7,200, not $4,800, because now the weighted average was better. In 24-25, you had a weighted average. If you were going to do the prices, let's say you were going to do 600,000 tons, 500,000 tons main crop, and 100,000 tons light crop. On the light crop, you have a 20% discount of the main crop's price. So in doing your pricing, your weighted average, your FOB for the year, you take 500,000. If the crop is $5,000, you take 500,000, which will be sold at $5,000, and then you take 100,000, which will be sold at $4,000. That's the 20% discount, and then you put these two prices together, and then you get a weighted average, which will give you the average FOB for the year. In this case, you had to factor in the effect of the 333,767
at
2.6.
Okay.
So that is how come, although the prices were 12, 11, and 10,
your weighted
at the time that they set the price, the 12, 10, 11 was not our era. It was them. Although those prices were those high, the weighted average, because of the 333,000 at 2.6, they could not declare an FOB higher than 4.8. And the farmer got 3.1, which $3,100, which represented 63.9%.
I get that. My question is, have you been able to benefit at all from the 12,000, 10,000 price that I think it came into 25 as well? Because the price started falling when you took over.
No.
So when you became CEO, what was the price?
So you had an average of, let's say, 9,085. But the point is that you had done the weighted average. So you had a weighted average of 4,800.
So you were locked in?
Yes, you are locked in. And like he's saying,
so you were not able to future sell any cocoa at beyond 5,000 in your first 6 months?
No, you see, you could price the new ones at, let's say, 9,000. But when you price the new ones at 9,000, let's say it is $9,000.
Yeah.
But you take the 9,000 and you use that to service a contract at 2.6. Do you get what I'm saying?
So you are losing.
Yes, you are losing. And the worst part is that because you are paying the farmer 3.1, for every ton of cocoa that the LBC buys from the farmer and pays the farmer 3.1, that you use to service a contract at 2.6, you are not only losing revenue, but you're also incurring debt.
Wow.
Of $500. Now fast forward to 25-26, when you now had a higher FOB of 7.2, and the farmer share now rose from 3.1 to 5,040.
Fair enough.
What it meant was that anytime the LBC paid the farmer 5,040 for a ton, and you use that to service the 2,600 contract, you were incurring a debt of 2,400 on the LBC's account.
2 points for you.
Yes.
Do you see this thing you've described to me before even the interview with Doc as something that is just incompetence, criminal negligence, or just wrong decisions?
So Bernard, before I get in there, I don't want to make any value judgment. I'm saying that this is what we inherited. This is the effect or impact of that decision.
Fair enough. Have you commissioned some audit to look into, because you can know what the fact is, but you can also look at the behavior that led to the creation of that fact?
Yes.
So have you commissioned anything to ascertain whether, because we are losing money, we owe,
yes,
and basically we were forced to sell cocoa at a price which was much lower than we could have gained.
Yes.
Have you asked anybody to look into it in a sense of seeing if there's any culpability?
Not yet. Not on my part.
Do you intend to do that?
Yes, I think that there are relevant agencies who must do that.
But you have to give them information.
And I'll urge them.
You have to give them some primary, but you should establish some primary fashion.
The information is available. I'm saying that this thing is unprecedented. It's never happened. You spoke about the fact that COCOBOD has a lot of expertise. COCOBOD had done syndication for 32 years. So the expertise is there. COCOBOD itself will be 80 years next year. The expertise is there. How do you have a forecast that goes off by over 40%? There must have been some serious or terrible thing happening. You must explain. Because for the 32 years that you ran the syndicated loan, you never had this situation. It never happened. So how come that it occurred in that particular year? So obviously this is something that must be interrogated. And that also then leads us to a funding model where now it is the buyer who provides the money. And you see, unfortunately, it's people like Dr. Poku, who we obviously ought to know better because they've worked in the system, who should then be explaining the things better. That under syndication, for example, you got the money, and out of the syndicated loan, you gave seed funds to LBCs to go and buy on your behalf. Under this buyers funding model, it is the buyers who give the money for you to give to the LBCs to go and buy the crop. So when the buyers are not buying,
there's no money.
There's no money to fund the crop. So we are at a situation where, on the basis of where the world prices are today, so with this model, there is nothing like the issue of the forest sales and all that. It's only when they come and book contract and say maybe 100,000. They are also using this system to also work on their inventory.
Fair enough. Now people will say, fair enough, we've heard you. But so what solved the problem? That's why you came.
Yes.
In opposition, you people talk a lot. So you're in government now. So you've had 1 year. What is your new proposal to deal with the mess, quote unquote, you are describing going forward?
So first of all, like I said, we've been working on a new funding model. The minister will make this known, the details known. We're working on a new pricing mechanism. Now, both of this will also lead to some serious agenda with respect to value addition. Because you see, one of the things about the syndicated loan is that by the nature of the loan, you are also forced to commit your robins, maybe 70 or 80% of your robins. And so how do you then pursue such a funding model and at the same time speak about value addition?
It means your local value adders will not have because the seed has already been encumbered.
So you say that you have capacity of 560,000 tons.
They will not get
yet the funding model that you are using is a model that ensures that you actually dedicate
a lot of your beans
to buyers. Do
the local processors have the same financial connections? Because obviously if a big foreign company is going to offtake your cocoa, they have relationship with the banks, so there's a relationship there. Our local value adders, the banks here interests are so high, so they will still be disadvantaged.
So the new funding model that we are looking at is a funding model that will allow us to optimize the use of our processing capacity. That is what we are looking at. So we are looking at one that, and this particular funding model also is actually killing a lot of the indigenous LBCs, because in the LBC space we've also allowed the buyers, the big buyers, to also set up. And so now the buyers even nominate which LBC to work with. You understand me? So you have a lot of the indigenous LBCs who are out of business because there's no longer any seed money for them to go out and do business. So we are looking at a new funding model that guarantees that the indigenous LBCs are in business. That too guarantees that we can fully utilize our processing capacity. So that is what we are working at. And a funding model that will also ensure that you don't have a situation where the buyers are those who dictate when you have money and when you shouldn't have money. And therefore you can have the situation that we are having now with respect to no liquidity in the system. There's no liquidity simply because the buyers find our crop as too expensive on the basis of the current price. If you take Africa alone, the buyers have the option of Togo. they have Cote d'Ivoire, they have Nigeria, they have Cameroon, they have Liberia, they have Guinea. Outside of Africa, they have Brazil, they have Ecuador, they have Indonesia.
Are you saying in all these places our price is the highest?
I'm saying that on the basis of where the world market price is today. So if we are selling to them at, let's say, 6.4, and the elsewhere they can get it for 4.1, 4.2, why would they continue buying from you?
Why is your price that high?
Our price is that high because we set an FOB of 7.2 to give the farmer 5,040. We use an exchange rate of 11.5, which means that now if you look at how much we pay the farmer, the 58,000 is actually $5,260 per ton.
Was that price a mistake?
It wasn't a mistake. It wasn't a mistake. But you also have the issue. That is why I said the new things we are looking at, apart from the new funding model, is also a new pricing mechanism. A new pricing mechanism that ensures that anytime you have a significant shift as far as the world market price is concerned or the exchange rate, you can also adjust the price.
So it's like the automatic tariff adjustments in the
power. So in that case, you don't have an issue of under recovery by COCOBOD.
So the discretion is removed.
Yes.
So you're going to. So it's like a formula.
Yes, and it is fair to everybody.
Will Parliament approve of it, or it can? Because don't forget that in the tariff case, when they approve the tariffs, the automatic adjustment formula kicks in because it's approved.
Yes.
So my question is, are you going to do this so that it becomes a parliamentary issue, or your technocrats will still decide?
No. We are working on the new COCOBOD Act.
Okay.
Which will deal with a lot of things like galamsey, the destruction of cocoa trees, and all those things. A comprehensive review, the new COCOBOD Act. It will go to cabinet soon.
So Parliament becomes part of the agreement on the pricing.
Yes.
Based on the formula.
Well, yes. So you would have an ally after the act, and the ally is the one that will give you the details of the pricing mechanism.
And you think that's going to be better for our value addition and also reduce our losses in terms of volatility?
That added with a new pricing model. The new funding model. So a new funding model, a new pricing mechanism.
How much of local finance will be involved in this new funding model? Because I still go back to the point that our financial sector is not that deep and our rates are very high. So it's going to be difficult for local funding to take a chunk of the money.
We have done the analysis, and with the Honorable Minister of Finance, we have the firm conviction that we can raise it locally, domestically.
You can?
Yes, we can.
Wow.
And so we are looking at this funding model also being a domestic one.
So as your producers are growing cocoa, if by September 2026 you start...
You mean our competitors?
No, so Ghana.
You mean the farmers?
Yes. You're saying that the 2026 crop, the new funding model is what you used to purchase it?
26-27.
So next year?
26-27.
Because we're in 25-26.
Yes, so 26-27 will be from September, October.
Wow.
Yes.
Do you have a sense of how much you can raise in the new funding model? Or that will depend on the crop production?
Yes.
How many tons are you looking at?
Well, this season we projected 650. And as I speak, we've done like 580.
Will this funding model also continue with forward selling? Because don't forget, you told me that the syndicated loan was inherently a forward selling arrangement.
Yes.
But in the new funding model, will we still be forced to forward sell?
Not forced. So we are looking at the funding model that does not force us, that does not compel us to forward sell the raw beans as a basis for seeking the funding. And that is the only way we can then be able to fully utilize our value addition potential and also engage or invite or use as a leverage to getting more investment into value addition.
Wow.
So that's why I said that the new pricing model we are looking at, the new pricing mechanism, the new funding model are all geared towards dealing with issues that we have seen, the analysis that we've done from syndicated to the current model, to the issue of value addition, to the issue of price volatility, to the issue of under recovery on the part of COCOBOD, to the issue of farmers not getting the real value.
And all of this will be in the new bill.
Yes, so you have the bill, which will then refer to some of these things. So the allies will also support the bill in respect to the specificity of some of these things.
Wow. No, it will be interesting for us to look at a financing model when you get time or when it becomes because the big question for Ghana is where do you get finance? And this is not just for cocoa, for everything else. And he who pays the piper calls the tune. So I'm very interested in hearing how you and Atuforsen have found a way of raising domestic finance in addition to whatever source of finance you get, which gives you the discretion and does not also lock you in against your local. And by the way, what's the sector looking like in terms of the value addition? The Barry Calibo plot, ADM, and all these niche cocoa. Are they? How do they have the capacity to take on more of our beans?
So currently installed capacity is, I think, about 560. But if
560 what?
560,000 tons.
Okay.
But if, let's even say that the functional capacity is even 400,000 tons.
Wow.
Let's even
the
functional capacity is even 400,000 tons. What it means is that at least
over half of your crop can be bought locally.
Yes, can be processed locally. Now, what that also means is that it sends a signal to would-be processors that if I set up in Ghana, I can be guaranteed.
But don't forget that if you sell to these guys in cedis, you also lose some of the FX you get from selling.
You don't have to sell to them in cedis.
Can they buy in dollars?
They buy in dollars anyway. The local processors buy in dollars. Whatever they buy from COCOBOD is bought in dollars. They buy in dollars. They don't buy in cedis.
You have to come back. We have to end it here. We have to end it here. It's been interesting. We've been talking to Randy Abbey in studio. Earlier on, we spoke to Dr. Isaac Yao Opoku, MP for Finsu South, who is the ranking member on the Cocoa, Agric and Food Committee of Parliament. We hope you've learned something new, and we hope you enjoy the show. We'll see you next time. Have a good night. Bye-bye.